Alright, first of all, I can't find the video camera, so I'm on my phone. I'm hopefully not going to have a bunch of small videos because I don't know what to say really. But yeah, I'm going to try to keep it brief. Also, like right as I was about to hit record, the air conditioning kicked on. I'm not going to turn it off, so sorry. But yeah, Mac and Me, that sure was a movie. Um, it wasn't nearly as horrible as I was expecting it to be. It wasn't good. I mean, if I was a kid, because I was the target audience for this movie when it came out, I probably would have tortured my mom with it by playing it a lot of the time. So, it did its job in that regard, I'm sure. But it wasn't good, and as mentioned before, for me, one of the worst things any form of media can be is boring. And oh my god! The alien did not fully become a part of this movie until 55 minutes and 12 seconds in. Up until then, it was okay, we establish the aliens, make it to Earth, they escape. And then it was just almost an hour of weird things are happening, but the alien disappears before anyone can see it. Like, there's even one bit where the kids, the two boys, suck it into a vacuum cleaner with the girl who lives next door, and they capture it and they confirm for themselves at least, here's the creature that's been causing all this mischief, and it runs away before the mom can see it. And then it's probably another 10, 15 minutes again, and before we get to the point where I mentioned where it finally feels like Mac is part of the story and not just a thing that happens. And it's just like, oh my god. And I'm like, get to the fucking point already. I paused this movie several times to see how far along it was, to see how much I had left. Okay, but that said, once it gets to that point, once they get to the McDonald's, basically, it is nothing but fuckery and chaos and gets pretty entertaining at times. Like, the scene at the McDonald's is just, what is happening? And at that point, I feel like they skip several steps, too. Like, okay, so there's Eric, the kid in the wheelchair. I don't know how to describe it because if nothing else, a lot of people know that one scene. His older brother Michael, the girl next door Debbie, who's about Eric's age, and Debbie's older sister, whom I don't remember the name of, who works in McDonald's. So there's that connection right there. And okay, they get to McDonald's, and the alien is there, dressed they dressed like a bear. Like I'm not gonna get to detail about fucking that nonsense. And at one point, the alien stretches his arm out, grabs a kid's drink, and everyone reacts appropriately. But then shit just starts happening. Like, there's a dance number, there's football players there. And at one point, Michael, the older brother, gets there. And Eric says, Mac is here. That is the first time the alien is referred to by that name, and that threw me for a frickin' loop. Because I've not actually seen this movie before. I want to say I saw other clips besides the infamous one, but I cannot remember for sure. But it was my understanding is he was named Mac because he really liked Big Macs. We never see a Big Mac in this movie. And that is it. Eric just randomly starts calling him Mac. And then everyone else starts doing it too. And then, it's established that Michael, the older brother, is trying to get with the older sister. That's fine, whatever. one point, when the McDonald's scene starts happening and the chaos starts happening, because I really can't keep track of the order because it was just so fucking bizarre. Michael goes to this older sister who works at McDonald's and goes, Mac, the creature I was telling you about is here. Okay, one, when did that happen? Two, why did that happen? And then he goes, but something like, oh, but so are the men who are chasing us. What men? You are barely aware of them. And how do you know they're chasing you? And like, and then chaos from there. Like, there's a chase scene as soon as they leave the McDonald's where it's almost like something out of fucking Betty Hill. And it's just, but everything else bad about this movie, I feel like most of it is just a series of nitpicks. Like I said, it was like, how do you know these men are chasing you? There's a scene where shenanigans happen, and the next morning, the government operative is there asking questions, and they answer, and we cut away, and the government operative, or I don't know if he works for the government, but he's in a suit. He gets into the alley. He gets into a car when someone else is there, and he goes, "It's here." What the fuck are you basing that on? You have nothing to go on other than there was a blackout in this area. There's literally no other evidence that you see. And so, yeah, it's just a bunch of series of nitpicks I can make. And normally I roll my eyes at nitpickers. If I notice something, I shrug. But otherwise, I was so bored, I had nothing to do but well, that doesn't make sense. Why is that happening? I had nothing else to do in this movie. I feel like there's 2 hours of my life I'm never going to get back. Yeah, but that said, I feel like there's actually some good stuff. As most people know, this movie, the main boy in this movie is in a wheelchair. And, I am physically abled. I'm not the place to talk about this, but at no point do I feel like this movie was ableist. It's like, yeah, this kid's in his wheelchair, but his family doesn't make fun for it. We see him spending time with his mom. His brother helps him. Like when he meets the girl next door, because the part of this movie is they're moving into a new house. The girl doesn't at any point ask him about the wheelchair in a condescending way. When Debbie's mom takes him to McDonald's, she asks, how does he ride in the car? And he answers, I have no notes in that regard. There are maybe modern movie, that is one regard I would even go as far to say modern movie writers should watch this movie if they have a character in a wheelchair. Because, yeah, I am perfectly physically abled. I have my leg acts up from time to time and I have to limp. Okay, not even that bad. I'm not trying to say I relate to this movie at all. I'm trying to say I am probably the last person who should be talking about this. But I have seen other movies where a character's in a wheelchair, and I'm just like, oh god. I didn't have that with this movie. The family dynamic between the two boys and their mom was fine. I really liked when shenanigans started happening, with Mac being in the house. The mom doesn't immediately call her son crazy. She's like, I don't believe you, but I also don't think my son would lie to me. So, that's well done. And the only point when she loses her shit is a perfectly understandable time for her to lose her shit. She says the house is ruined. It was like, okay, I want to go that far, lady, but yeah, what else is a person supposed to respond to what happened? One thing I will say as part of why I wanted to watch this movie is I wanted to know why Paul Rudd chose that particular scene. And at first I think, because that is one of the earliest exciting things that happens in this movie. I can nitpick all the weird scenes, but like I said, it was boring. And there's some car chase, chaos, whatnot during the escape, but even then wasn't that interesting. When that scene happened, it makes sense in context, and maybe it's not as bad in context, but it's just something's happening finally. But even then, like I said, once they did the McDonald's, the movie is almost entirely freaking chaos. I almost feel like should have picked something from that. I don't know. Maybe he said in an interview why picks that scene, but I don't know. But yeah, like I said, I could start going into certain scenes and why they bugged me or why they were weird, but go. I'm sure there are tons of other videos on this movie on the internet. Go find some of those. God, this movie was so boring. For the first hour, this movie was so fucking boring, and even after that, it did get boring again at points. They weren't back. They really weren't. Oh, I got one thing I do want to say is like everyone said, oh, McDonald's want to get their name taken off. It's like, I mean, I don't. I mean, the movie's bad, so that's why. But like, the McDonald's part is like one of the best parts of the movie. The birthday party at McDonald's, like, okay, maybe that seems weird nowadays, but you know, I went to birthday parties at McBurger King, so to me that makes perfect sense. And you know, Ronald McDonald was there. It's like that's one of the best scenes of the movie. That makes McDonald's look awesome. However, there was some really other blatant product placement. Like, I'm not normally the guy who notices that, but it was like, first of all, this movie should have been called Coke and Me. The Coca-Cola is fucking everywhere, more than anything McDonald's related. And I just remember there's one distinct scene, part of the early part of the movie, shenanigans start happening where Eric is changing the batteries in his remote control car, and no matter what angle the scene is from, you can always perfectly see that it is an Energizer battery, which is weird product placement because he's changing the battery because it died. But yeah, I just hit 12 minutes. I don't know what to say that probably hasn't been said 1,000 times, or at least better. But I have been punished. I will start trying to figure out how to do the CM Punk promo. I am gonna call my dad because it's Father's Day and try to enjoy the rest of my day because I fucking deserve it after this.